As the result of Sunday's presidential election in Peru is still to be defined, with an almost neck-and-neck race between progressive candidate and newcomer Pedro Castillo and far-right political veteran Keiko Fujimori, we now welcome Matt Kirkegaard, who's in Peru as an election observer with the Progressive International Delegation. Matt, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
Matt, you've been observing the electoral process on the ground. What can you tell us about what you saw on Sunday as Peruvians turned out to vote?
The process so far has been, of course, defined by, I think, its peaceful and orderly nature. Of course, there are allegations of fraud circulating, but we as international observers, not just from the delegation of the Progressive International, but from other delegations as well, including the OAS and Junior and other delegations representing forces in Europe and the United States, have not seen any evidence of fraud, which we've published statements to that effect. And at this moment, we're happy that the elections have concluded now in a peaceful and orderly manner.
Matt, as you said you've not seen any evidence to say that there has been any electoral fraud. Keiko Fujimori and her campaign team came out on Monday night to make those allegations, even before the full results were in. As you say, you have not seen any evidence to support these claims, and nor have other electoral observers. Pedro Castillo has called on his supporters to remain calm. He's called on them to wait for the election results. He did so on Monday night, and he's done again recently, just a few moments ago. His message has been repeated. It's been to stay calm and not to fall into provocation. His Free Peru party did release a statement on Monday referring to the importance of ensuring the security of the website where the official results are being published. What can you tell us about the vote counting process itself and the release of these final results?
Well, the vote counting process itself began at approximately 7 p.m. on election night itself, and the first initial results were delivered to both the parties and several international observer delegations. But the official online live results began coming in at around 11:30 p.m. and have been trickling in ever since. There are now most of the votes counted from foreign countries. These are Peruvians voting abroad in the United States or New Zealand or what have you. Most of these votes have now been counted. The United States was a long delay, an alarmingly long delay, in fact. But everything seems to be in order there, and the votes are being counted. And now we still need to wait for the count on two sort of pots of votes. One being, of course, the rural, most remote areas of Peru, where those votes will be the actas, in fact. The record of those votes will be transferred for counting. And finally, a group that's approximately 1.5% of the votes with problems. Maybe they were lacking a signature from the person in charge. Maybe the math doesn't add up. Maybe an ID number was absent and a name was added instead. These are the sorts of things that the JNE, the electoral authorities here, will be adjudicating in the days and probably week to come. But now, Castillo's margin is growing to such an extent that this may not have an effect at all. We'll have to wait and see. But it seems like this buffer of already tallied votes is probably going to be enough to deliver the presidency to Pedro Castillo.
Matt, we're talking about a very tight race, as you've said. Castillo, as you said, has maintained a lead, despite the exit polls calling it for Fujimori, and that lead remains less than a percentage point. But the difference in terms of the number of votes is rising again in Castillo's favour, as you've mentioned. What can you tell us about the atmosphere there on the ground as Peruvians wait for the final results when there is such a small margin and, as you say, there are still some votes to be counted?
So I'm in Lima here, of course, which is of course pure Fujimori territory. This is where her stronghold is and has been in the past elections, as well as sort of the surrounding provinces and some of the coastal provinces as well. And yet, even here in this moment, very calm. In fact, we still have toque de queda curfew here it just began several minutes ago, and yet the atmosphere is jubilant outside of the Pedro Castillo headquarters, of course, as you would expect, but no signs of any at least so far, visible violence or tension. It's been an orderly, peaceful, calm, almost eerily calm process so far.
Matt, perhaps going beyond a little the scope of you as an election observer, but more in terms of what's happening there in Peru, with an election so tight and with two candidates who are so opposed in terms of what they represent. You're saying that it's very calm at the moment. Do you think that there could be some kind of strong reaction from Fujimori if it is called for Castillo? What do you think there could be in terms of a reaction on the streets as these election results finally come out?
I think on the streets, it's very hard to say. We've seen in 2020 from the other side what Peru is capable of as far as a popular reaction to political events. I'm referring, of course, to the popular rejection of the removal of the presidents late last year, which led to a succession of presidents being installed and removed, and now whoever wins in this case will be the fourth president, and I believe in 1 year. So this is I certainly think there could be potential for that, but I wouldn't want to speculate that that's likely or coming for certain. What I think will certainly be coming is a more institutionalized backlash against this victory, if this is indeed a victory by Pedro Castillo. The media is overwhelmingly controlled in the amount of 80% by one corporation leaning heavily to the right wing and supporting Fujimori. Of course, the Peru Libre does not, Free Peru, his party does not have a majority in the Congress. And I think it's safe to say that all aspects of the ruling class in Peru are aligned against his mission and his party and his supporters. So I think this backlash will certainly be coming in the days, weeks, months, and possibly even years to come, to try to make the Pedro Castillo government as ineffective as possible, especially at this moment when the people are yearning for such dramatic change.
Matt Kirkegaard joining us from Peru, where he's been observing the presidential elections as a member of the Progressive International Delegation. Thank you so much for offering your insight into this process, as Peruvians are still waiting to find out who will be their next president. Thank you.
Thank you very much.